Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Shemi Awashai Ba'Shem HaRakakwadash. This is a continuation of the previous video that was uploaded. The video had cut off. So I left off at let's see, the 5th or 6th verse. Bear with me. I left off at the 5th or 6th verse, so let's continue. Shalakia. And our double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations as well as health and wellness unto the hopeful elect of Yahweh Shemi Awashai, scattered across the earth. Lord willing, the elect of Yahweh Shemi Awashai be edified. So, yep, I left off at the 5th or 6th verse. So Genesis 2 and verse 6. I'll start at 5. And every plant of the field before was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh's powers had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground, which that's dealing with, we call now the dew. Like when you wake up early in the morning, and the grass is wet, but it didn't rain, that's the dew. You see? Verse 7. And Yahweh's powers formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So, hold tight. Yeah, regarding verse 5, that's why the people thought Noah was out of his mind when he was prophesying while building the ark, about the coming of the flood. Because there was no rain back then, only what we now call dew. Now, in verse 7, the dust is twofold because dust also means confusion. So the Most High man brought up out of that confused state and gave him order. The breath of life in there is twofold also because it's talking about the spirit, right? We have an actual spirit, but it's also talking about the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High, right? So once again, Genesis 2 and 7, and Yahweh's powers formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And I want to get a precept. I want to get the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter. Bear with me. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 24. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of the Most High, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no underfound thing fall into her. For she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of the Most High, and the image of his goodness. And being but one, she can do all things, and remaining in herself, she maketh all things new. And in all ages entering into holy souls, she maketh them friends of the Most High and prophets. Right? So that's that when it says, and breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, that's twofold. Right? Once again, it's talking about the spirit, but it's also speaking of the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High. So, verse 8, and Yahweh's powers planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there they put the man. Well, I'll read it verbatim now, right? And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Now that word Eden in the Hebrew is Idan, meaning pleasure, which that's speaking of the earth, right? Because the earth was made for the pleasure of man, right? So you see here, the word there is Idan, right? Meaning what? Pleasure. And that's speaking of the earth. Now, so eastward in Eden will be eastward in the earth, which is what? The so-called Middle East. So that's what that garden was, right? The garden was eastward in Eden, which is in the so-called Middle East, right? Eastward in Eden meaning eastward in the earth. And it says, and there he put the man whom he had formed, right? So Adam, that's where Adam was until he was removed from that area. Verse 9, which we'll read about that, I think. Oh, that's the third chapter. Yeah, that's the third chapter, I think. Yeah. So Genesis 2 and verse 9, and out of the ground made Yahweh's powers, or Salakia, and out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And and a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. So if one river is parted into four heads, well, you now have four more. You have four rivers, right? Verse 10 and Salakia, verse 11. The name of the first is Pison, which that's the Red Sea. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. Verse 13, and the name of the second river is Gihon, which that's the Nile River. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, which that's the Tigris River. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates, which the Euphrates River is still called the Euphrates River today. So verse 15, and the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. Verse 16, and the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Now, let's see, verse 17. In verse 9, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is talking about the formation of the heavens, right? Pursuant to the book of Revelation, chapter 22, and verse 1 through 2. Let me get that really quick. Revelation, chapter 22, and verse 1. And he shewed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of the Most High and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and of either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Right. So they're not actual trees that you can eat actual fruit from. That fruit that Eve and Adam ate was philosophy, right? You know. So let's see, verse 10, verse 16. Oh, and in verse 16, the trees that the man was told that he could freely eat of were actual trees that you can eat actual fruit from, right? But the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you know, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, bear with me, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil aren't actual trees that you can eat actual fruit from, right? So let's see. All right, verse 18, and the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. Salakia. And the Lord God said that, and the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him, right? And in other words of a helpmeet, servant, right? Assistant, help. Matter of fact, let's look it up. Right? Help me synonyms: companion, partner, associate, assistant, helper, right? Go with me. And that's talking about the woman, right? Salakia, you know? So you see it. Better half is not it, right? Come on. I don't even know why they added that in there. That's unnecessary. But Genesis chapter 2 and verse 19, and out of the ground, and in particular, that helpmeet in particular is Eve, right? Being a helpmeet to Adam. But in general, that's the woman being an helpmeet unto the man. Or in other words, a servant unto the man, an assistant, a helper, right? And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. Verse 21, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of the ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Which that's a symbolic talk of the Most High taking a woman of Adam's nation for him, will prove that. In verse 23, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Now to prove that that's symbolic talk of the Lord taking of Adam's nation a woman for him. Let me jump to the book of Genesis chapter 28 and verse 1 is where I'll start. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban thy mother's brother. So next, this is Genesis 29 and 13. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him, right? Basically shewed love towards him, and brought him to his house, and he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. So the same thing that Adam said in regards to the woman that was taken of his nation for him, the same thing was said here in Genesis the 29th chapter. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh, meaning what? Of my people. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother. See, of the same nation, man. That's the point. So the Lord didn't perform a operation, a surgical operation. Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? So back to Genesis, the second chapter. And Salaki in my voice, I think my voice is going out. This is the 24th verse, Genesis 2 and 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Verse 25, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Right, and regarding verse 25, what they really were naked to was the truth, right? They were naive. And I have a precept down for that, so let me pull that up in here. Let's see, and I'm not too sure what this precept says. Romans 16 and 19. For your obedience is come abroad unto all men. I am glad therefore on your behalf, but yet I will have you wise unto that which is good and simple concerning evil. Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah. So they were naive. Let's look up naive. Showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment. See? Innocent, right? Natural and unaffected. But the point is showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment, right? Because they only knew, pretty much at first, they only knew good. But in order to be right, a proper ruler, a proper king, a proper judge, you have to know both sides, right? Good and evil. And that's the process that we are going through right now. You see? And that's what the Lord has and is doing for his men, right? So, that's pretty much it. With that, Lord willing, you are edified once again and forever. All praises, honor, and glorification unto our power. Call Halim La, Allahayna wa Yahweh, Bahashem. Yahweh Shai Bahashem Harakakwadash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations as well as health and wellness unto the hopeful elect of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, scattered across the earth. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. While Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Baba Kasha Ababa Ball. While Shalom. DTA soon. Stay sharp.